From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Teruma, what happened at Sinai. We know that at Mount Sinai there was a ceremony of covenant mentioned at the end of Parshat Mishpatim. And then Vayavo Moshe b'toch ha'nam vayal har. Moshe went up to the mountain. Vayim Moshe bahar 40 yom v'arba'im laila. Moshe went up to the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Now, what did Moshe do for those 40 days? Well, he learned Torah. Got the whole Torah. But if you look at the simple reading of the text itself, what did they learn together? Based on what my Rabbi Yaakov Midan, something that he said, and we mentioned last week in Parshat Mishpatim, we might argue, the Parsha that says that it was said at Har Sinai, you know what it is? Parshat Bahar. Turn to the end of Vayikra, and you see, Vadaber Hashem and Moshe Bahar Sinai Lemor. God told Moshe at Har Sinai. What did he tell him? 6 years you should work. 7 year is a rest. 50th year is the sabbatical year, is the Jubilee year. And the slave should rest. It's all about an expansion of the first commandment that God took us out of the house of bondage. It's all an expansion of Shabbat, that we shouldn't have our slave work. Not only that, but for the slave should go free every 50th year. Furthermore, in last week's Parsha, right as they stood at Sinai, they made a covenant. And there's a covenant that's found in Parsha Bechukotai. After Bahar, you have Bechukotai. And at Bechukotai, he has a covenant. What does it say at the end of this covenant? It says, these are the Chukim, Mishpatim, and Torah, these are the laws that Hashem said, Bahar Sinai, B'yad Moshe, at Har Sinai. The end of Parsha Bechukotai, after some other laws of Temura and Erechin, Ela mitzvot, these are mitzvot, Asher Tzivah Hashem b'nei Yisrael Bahar Sinai and Mount Sinai. So perhaps, not Mount Sinai in the sense of when they were hanging out at Mount Sinai before or after the 40 days, but no, during the 40 days, maybe that's what they learned, was something about poor people and slaves and sabbatical years and jubilee years, making time for God in a big way, years and sometimes 2 years in a row for God. And that's one theory of what went on at Mount Sinai. But if you turn the page, the end of last week's Parsha, it said Moshe went up for 40 days and 40 nights, and then you turn to this week's Parsha. And then it says, Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Lemor, God spoke to Moshe. Where? Well, probably at Mount Sinai. And there's evidence, as Tamir Granot pointed out in Israel. There's ample evidence that it was at Mount Sinai that God showed Moshe the tabernacle. It says right here, a number of times, Re'eh v'aseh, you should do and you should make all these different things from the tabernacle, betavnitam, in their image, asher atam mar'eh bahar, which you have been shown at Mount Sinai. Then it says it again, a little later on, before Chamishi, Lakemotat mishkan asher atam horeita bahar, and you should put on the Mishkan, which you've been shown at Mount Sinai. And then there is, I believe, one other reference as well. So it says right there that Moshe was shown the tabernacle at Sinai. Why? It's very simple. Based on the Ramban, we understand it very well. They went to Mount Sinai. What was Mount Sinai? Mount Sinai said, if the Jews gathered together, God could rest with the Jews at Mount Sinai. But, says the Ramban, that's not the goal, that one time the Jews got together with God. That's not the idea. The idea is that we can make a permanent home for God, and we can rest with Him forever. So at Mount Sinai, God says, here the Jews are at Mount Sinai. It's wonderful, the Jews are gathering around the Torah and around God. We can do this forever. We'll get together in the Mishkan, we'll make a holy place, you'll build it, you'll donate to it, you'll build it, you'll put it together. You'll have holy Kohanim, and you'll inaugurate them, and they'll bring the daily offering and the incense, and we will have this kind of congregation of all the Jews with God, not just once at Mount Sinai, but we'll have it forever. And that's what's here in this parsha. There is a third possibility as well. So possibility number one, We have a parsha called Bahar. It ends on Har Sinai. It says that it was given at Har Sinai. It's about a sabbatical year. That's what they learned at Mount Sinai. Second theory is, what do you mean? It says right here, he went up for 40 days, and then God spoke to him and gave him the laws of the tabernacle and the laws of the priestly vestments, these two parsha. And that's what they learned at Mount Sinai. Why? Because it's a culmination and it's a continuation of Mount Sinai itself. It's the ultimate idea, the Beis HaMikdash, which we look forward to, the end of days, Mashiach. It's the ultimate thing for Jews to gather in a place where God is. However, this is a third possibility. If indeed they didn't learn Parshas Teruma per se at Mount Sinai, let's say at Mount Sinai they just had a good time, they learned the whole Torah. So what's Parshas Teruma doing over here? Then we have to remember, they have Parshat Teruma, and then they have the Egel, the golden calf sin, the worst sin you can imagine, worshipping an idol. And then we go back and they build the Mishkan again. So what is this section of Teruma doing here? If indeed Moshe didn't learn it now, why are we talking about it now? So the answer is that by putting these laws here, they don't really belong here per se. Who knows when they were learned? Somewhere after they finished at Mount Sinai. They were still at Mount Sinai a little bit after Moshe came down. They were building the tabernacle. So he told them when he came down, they were building the tabernacle. He told them about it after Yom Kippur. But why is it written here? It's written here in a very crafty kind of way, as if to say, how bad was the sin of the golden calf? You know how bad it was? It was so bad that I'm going to tell you a little story. We're going to go into the tabernacle. It's a place where God rests with the cherubs, with the Kruvim, and God appears there, and there's the holy ark, and you bring incense, and God appears in the incense, in the cloud, so to speak. And you can bring a daily offering. There'll be daily service, and it'll be a fulfillment of the breed of the covenant of God and the Jewish people. So holy, there are holy vestments and holy people. It's a holy place, and we'll get together. And in the context of those laws, all of a sudden, what happens? Bam, they do the sin of the golden calf. You want to know how bad the sin of the golden calf was? Look at the context. We're all excited about the Mishkan, the tabernacle. We're thinking about the places and the Holy of Holies. And in the middle of that, the Jews did the golden calf. That's exactly what they did. They were standing at Mount Sinai. How can we feel the holiness of Mount Sinai? Well, we're just going to talk about they were at Mount Sinai, saw a vision of God. It's not good enough. By getting us ensconced in all of it, absorbed in all these laws of the tabernacle, we then have the feeling of being the holy, and then from the sense of that holiness, that's where the golden calf takes place. And all of a sudden, you realize this is a terrible sin, not just terrible to worship idols, but specifically at Mount Sinai, in such a holy state, that's what's really terrible. It's not that they learned these laws per se, but rather that it was in this type of holiness that the sin of the golden calf took place. We have then three theories. What happened at Sinai? Was it the laws of Bahar B'Chukotai, the last two parshiot of Vayikra, which are known as Bahar Sinai, that were given at Mount Sinai? And it's an expansion of the fifth commandment, the fourth commandment about Shabbat, about not making your slave work. It's an expansion of the idea that God took us out of a house of bondage. We shouldn't enslave others. It's an expansion of the idea of the covenant, which was at Mount Sinai. Is it the idea that they learned Teruma, that since Teruma is the ultimate expression of Mount Sinai, as the Ramban explains, that's what he learned at Mount Sinai, was how to continue this experience of Sinai for the Jews forever in the Holy Temple? Or finally, no, these laws have nothing to do with at Mount Sinai. They may have been taught at Mount Sinai, but not during the 40 days that he was up there. But rather, it's taught later at Mount Sinai, because it says something about being shown the tabernacle Sinai, but it could have been later after the golden calf. But to show how bad the sin of the golden calf was, we put these laws here so that we should be all absorbed in holiness, and then all of a sudden to see and experience the golden calf, which was exactly what it was, a sin committed in the context of holiness. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshe Sephardim Beth El congregation for our discussion of the Parsha. Join us each week for the discussion of the holidays and how-to videos. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit asb.org.